everyone. This is William Dead Pilar. Welcome to Fired Up California, where we bring you all things from a conservative perspective on what was once the Golden State and is now a bleep hole. The last time we talked, we walked through how the Los Angeles mayor's race went from normal to looking rigged in just a few days. On election night, it was simple. Karen Bassett first, Spencer Pratt in second with a massive, comfortable lead, and Nithya Raman so far back in third, she was crying like a 6-year-old who had candy taken away when giving a concession speech. Then the late mail-in started rolling in, mail-in ballots, that is, and suddenly Ramen is chewing through that lead faster than I slurp ramen in college as a broke student. Within a few days, she slipped past Pratt by a sliver on those late ballots, just enough for Decision Desk to call her into second and push Pratt out of the runoff. In other words, they declared her the winner of the number 2 slot. We Californians know it's always a sliver, just enough mail in ballots to always secure the victory. Don't believe in me? 80% of the time, Democrats win after trailing on election night with the Republican in the lead. We also laid out the machine behind that miracle and how it happens. California runs elections with universal mail in ballots sprayed across dirty voter rolls, no voter ID at the polls, meaning anyone can walk up and vote, a joke level ID system to register where a gym membership card is all that's needed. No matter how old, and the fact you didn't have to prove who you are when you got it. All this is done for a reason. Then there's the fully legalized ballot harvesting. Think the homeless, retirement centers, and yes, even dead people. Well, they don't really get ballot harvesting, but I had to toss that in there. Why? Well, dead people vote, which has been documented. I just heard Victor David Hansen, and he talked about how his son kept getting ballots. Now his son is still alive. I heard, oh my gosh, I can't remember, Army Horowitz saying he got involved in researching California elections after his dead dad voted. They don't know how it happened, but he did. Then there's the slow counts where the numbers that really matter show up days later, always somehow breaking in the same direction. And just in case anyone in law enforcement thinks about checking under the hood because there are too many red flags to ignore, Gavin Newsom signs SB 73, a new law that effectively makes it a crime for cops or federal investigators to touch ballots, voter rolls, or voting machines without crawling over broken glass in court first. Courts that house corrupt progressive judges that rule with ideology before the law. Did you know every state has voted down gay marriage? You probably didn't. I don't care if gay people want to get married or not, but we are a nation of law and order, and every single state in the union has voted it down, only for corrupt courts to overturn it. And did you know in California it was a gay judge that overturned it? Conflict of interest, anyone? So tonight isn't just, are you mad that Spencer Pratt got robbed of a runoff spot? The real question is, do you trust any result coming out of a system that's been deliberately wired to be this loose on the front end and this opaque on the back end? In part two, we're going to talk about how that machine actually gets used on the ground, how ballot harvesters work homeless shelters, encampments, and sketchy addresses like farms, scooping up ballots from the most vulnerable in the city. Yesterday, I spoke to Ms. Annette Ross, my co host, who will be on in a moment, who kind of didn't think it was as plausible, not realizing they don't care about having a conversation and educating the homeless on who to vote for. Just sign the ballot and you get your pack of cigarettes. Just sign the ballot and you get your little pint of booze. Just sign the ballot and you get that bottle of Ripple, as Fred G. Sanford always enjoyed. We're also going to talk about how dirty voter rolls and universal mail ins create thousands of loose ballots just waiting for the right operatives to collect them. How the courts and the 2020 election fights changed the definition of proof so that almost nothing ever gets fixed, no matter how bad it smells. And why a Bass Ramen runoff is the safest possible outcome for the California Democratic political machine and the worst signal imaginable for anyone who still thinks California elections are on the level. Before I bring in the beautiful Miss Annette Ross, please like and share this podcast. That's how we're going to grow. And if you are watching us on YouTube, please follow us under the Grumblings Media Politics profile. On YouTube, Grumblings Media Politics. And if you're on the conservative platform, Rumble, you can find us and follow us under Grumblings Media. And with that, let's bring in the beautiful Miss Annette Ross. Senorita, how you doing?
Good. So glad I'm still beautiful. I'm excited actually this morning because I saw that a dog in Orange County voted.
Really? A dog voted?
Yeah, a dog voted. The woman wanted to prove that there was not voter integrity, that there was no voter integrity. So her dog Maya voted 3 times and even got a little sticker saying, "I voted today."
I know there's a woman that's going to jail for exposing the system. She purposely circumvented it to show how corrupt it is, and they sent her to jail. Orange County.
Could it be the owner of Maya? I don't know. I
Could
geez.
be because I have reported over a year ago that the dog voted in Orange County. So
That's
that may be a
this
rehash
is pretty
of the
recent
story.
actually. This happened this election cycle.
It's no surprise.
So dogs must vote frequently.
So, Annette,
Yes.
based on what I said, based on what
Yeah.
we talked about yesterday, if you were designing a system to be abused and hard to catch, is there anything wrong with the current system in place here in California?
No, and I wanted to add, you added gym membership, but I wrote down all the ways that people are allowed to use their identification to vote. So you said gym membership card, employee ID card, credit or debit card, prescription drug label. That's
Yes, a label, just a label.
that's a favorite of mine. Okay. And insurance card, which California, they give them to them free. They give those out free to whomever. So, yeah, I suppose they've set it up with that, and then this after the election day ballot counting. I think we're
Yes.
I think we're pretty good.
The fix is in.
It's-
The fix is in. I've been saying this since 2020 at the least, and they still mock 2020, even though all the red flags are there. Why? Because the Republican Party doesn't have the cojones to go, yes, there was something wrong. We saw the chart yesterday
yeah, we
on
did.
that. And before we go into it, let me pop that up. When you see it from this chart's perspective, it's actually quite shocking, don't you think? Let me bring it up here. This is from yesterday, but it's still worth showing. The national popular vote. Obama, the first black president. He's not an American foundational black, if you all are wondering, meaning his ancestry isn't American on his black side. It's American on his mother's side. That's where he got his citizenship from. But he was still technically the first black president. Well, actually, he was biracial, but he was considered black. 69 million in 2008. People started to figure him out. 65 million in 2012. And mind you, Annette, I tracked the Philly district, and there were precincts there that were 100% Obama votes, not one Mitt Romney vote. That's a statistical impossibility. There was fraud going on there. You cannot have precincts with 100 million. You're saying every single black individual was what was the term Biden used?
What?
The term he used where they all think one way that blacks took offense to.
Jeez, I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was a term that was used and people took offense, but that's what they're saying happened in Philly in 2012. So anyway, 69 million in 2008, 65 million in 2012. Hillary matched him with 65 million. And then we get that big jump to 81 million.
Amazing.
Back down to 68 million.
Yeah,
Nobody questions that. And I'm like, that's a massive red flag. Broken pipe, changes of a couple 100,000 in a flip of a switch.
yeah,
It's the corruption is there. The
yeah.
corruption is there, and it's time we stop ignoring it. All
I
right,
actually
people.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I actually think that with what's happened with Pratt in this mayoral election, a lot of people are talking about it.
Well, talking is one thing.
I
What are
just
we going to do
well,
about it?
we talk about that all the time, but I think the SAVE Act is pretty much not viable at this point. I was reading about that just this morning.
And this is what I mean when I say epoxy on John Thune and his family. This is why he's okay with the corruption and downfall of America
No
by
hexes,
blocking
no
this.
hexes, no hexes, William.
Epoxy on him and his family. And may he stub his toe the next time he goes ahead of line at the airport. That's
Wait,
the other thing.
why do you not think maybe we have the more convincing conversation and maybe the
Oh, well, John Thune represents the Chamber of Commerce and the big corporate donors.
yeah,
And all those farms, all those factories, all that, they
yeah.
want their illegals at a cheaper rate than they want to pay the American wage. That's what it boils down to. That's who the rhino Republican class represents at their core. And that's why John Thune won't pass it. Now, Mitch McConnell won't pass it because he just hates Donald Trump. And the reason John McCain and Mitch McConnell hate Trump, he achieved what they had orgasms about achieving. President, oh, McCain, oh, ooh. You know, McCain right now is like, man, it's warm in here. Yeah, deservedly so. You traitor. To me, McCain is Songbird McCain. When you actually read his history, you read the documentation on it, he was another bad dude. But people, because he went to war, was a prisoner of war, oh, you can't
Yeah.
say anything bad about him. Wrong. He betrayed a lot of those prisoners of war himself. So I know who John McCain is and what he is. John Kerry's another one for the Democrats. So there's a lot of bad people there with the seven sins who are
Well,
all in love and professing and practicing those seven sins.
you're big on the 7 deadly sins, and I hear you on that, but I also think, like, compartmentalizing any man, even a good man, is people definitely have their failings.
Well, McCain, pride, yes or no?
Yeah. Do you know anything about
Greed, greed, dumped
y
his first wife for the beer queen.
oh, that
Yes.
maybe that was less, maybe that was less.
Greed too. You see how much
Yeah,
the Anheuser she was worth? So
yeah.
I would say lust with that, envy, Trump with envy, gluttony. What's gluttony again? Isn't that food?
I know about
Gluttony.
gluttony. Gluttony is just but that would an overindulgence of anything is gluttony, I
Yes,
think.
yes, yeah. Him power, overindulgence of power, wrath and sloth. Those are the major vices.
Ooh.
He fits them all. Bam, 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 bam,
I don't
bam.
know about maybe
7 for 7.
not sloth.
He punches his ticket to hell, is what he's done with that.
In front of the merciful God, we have no idea.
Yeah, God would say, I tried, John, but you checked off all 7. Cha-ching, whoop, the elevator goes down. All right. So now that we've laid out the rules and the fortress being SB 71, let's
Yeah.
talk about how that system gets
I
used in
think
the
it wait,
shadows.
SB 73, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, SB
Okay, and I wanna
73.
make sure, okay.
Yeah, SB 73. Let's see how all this is used in the shadows, especially in places where ballots are easy to collect and voters are the least able to push back. So let's talk about fraud. I think the fraud here with the homeless, this is probably the most explosive and yet the least talked about.
Yeah,
Then with it's a trifecta: homeless, harvesting, and the dirty roads, because they all work hand in hand. So first you have the homeless ballots and registration. Then you have the universal mail-in ballots that go to everyone on the rolls. That's why these Democrat states and Democrat politicians fight to keep the roads from being cleaned. If you have dirty roads, as Ami Horowitz, his dad got mailed in a ballot. When I was in the independent, switched to Republican, I got mailed another ballot. This kid in Virginia, his home address in California, got another ballot. because those are dirty rolls. So they go to everyone on the rolls, these universal mail in ballots, including people registered at shelters, missions, and service centers. Those aren't home addresses, those are temporary places. Transitional housing, SRO hotels, supportive housing. The point being, these are bastions where these Democrat NGAs can go and harvest ballots unscrupulously, unethically. Then you got the mail drop addresses used by the homeless individuals to receive benefits where they can get it. Speaking of that, the ballot drop boxes, something I wanted to state, and I forgot to state yesterday, is they lie to you or say, "Oh, no, no, there's cameras on the ballot drop boxes." There's some cameras on some ballot drop boxes. And this is what the left does. There's some, and then they lie and make the claim with the assumption, oh, they're on all of them because there's on a couple. They don't tell you that part, only a couple cameras, which means they can't tell if somebody brings in a bunch of, they can't see if there's anything nefarious, like they have caught in some other major cities. They had this one city councilwoman with a whole armful of ballots going to a drop box, kind of, you know. All right. So then there's LA's homeless population. It sits at about 43 to 48,000. And it's a block, ironically, of voters equal in size to Rahman's late mail in search. I think it's more than that. It's just the coincidence is something that is a red flag because the bulk of those homeless were probably ballot harvested by Democratic NGOs in the tens of thousands. And we all know that they more than likely went to Rahman. I mean, we can't prove it because of the way the system's set up. They can prove it. They have to get specific individuals. They already have. The New York Post had an article, Annette, they had 5 homeless and said, yeah, they bribed us. They give us, I haven't read the article yet, but the headline is they were bribed. So I'm looking forward to reading that article. Then there's the ballot harvesting itself, as I've been talking about. California allows third-party collections of ballots, ballot harvesting, with virtually no cap. So one person can go to a homeless people, lie to, don't go there with say $10,000 worth of cigarettes and rack up thousands and thousands of ballots, including booze. The generous NGO Democrat operative, you're going to give them a pack of smokes and their pints of booze. Why not? It's taxpayers' money buying it all. So California allows these third-party collections to do that. So campaigns and aligned organizations, I said NGOs, but campaigns and aligned organizations can legally go door to door collecting ballots at work shelters, encampments, and low-income housing complexes. Most people don't vote, so they'll just hand the ballot, especially the homeless if they give them, again, a pack of cigarettes or a bottle of booze. So the alleged behavior on the ground reports and anecdotal information of harvesters, again, bring food, cash, cigarettes. I forgot the food part, cash, cigarettes, or help the homeless individuals in exchange for completed ballots. Oh, you need a room to stay tonight? I'll help you. Please sign here first. This has all been anecdotal and have been caught in individual stings. There's never been a full-fledged investigation done. That's why Democrats move the goalposts and go, there's no ballot, no voter fraud. Oh, it's just rare. See, they just keep moving the goalposts. It's not. So they do this by pre-filling ballots and then having homeless individuals just sign the envelope. So the nature of homelessness, addiction, mental illness, desperation, it makes this population the least able to resist pressure or understand what is happening. When you have an addict who is an alcoholic, all he cares about is getting that pint. He'll do whatever he's told. When you have that mother with that shivering kid who's homeless, all you do is sign this and I'll get you right on into the hotel. No paperwork. So then you have dirty roles and bad addresses. Past litigation forced LA County to acknowledge problems with inactive and outdated registrations, and they were supposed to clean it up, and they still haven't. Not to the fullest degree that the court mandated and to the agreement they agreed to. So then you have watchdog investigations that found registrations linked to commercial PO boxes and UPS type stores, which is illegal, empty lots and abandoned buildings, addresses with implausible numbers of registered residents. Yet ballots are still mailed to these entries unless aggressively scrubbed. And I'm just being polite by saying unless aggressively scrubbed because they're not. So loose rolls plus universal mail-ins, plus harvesting, plus vulnerable populations. That's the formula. Loose rolls, they're not cleaning up the rolls. The universal mail-in ballots that go to every single person in California, the NGOs that ballot harvest, and then you got the vulnerable populations. And we're not just talking the homeless. You've got the non-English speaking. Democrat who knocks on the door because they receive the ballot. I'll help you. Oh, yes. I want the person who is pro-life. Oh, that is Gavin Newsom.
Mhm.
Meaning they lie to them. So all that, so that's a formula that equals thousands, tens of thousands of live ballots floating in spaces where operatives, not voters, control the paperwork. That's where these ballots wind up at. And that's the context for the late surge of tens of thousands of mail ins breaking hard for a single ideological candidate. That's how it happens. So, Annette, and this system that legalizes harvesting floods homeless shelters with ballots. Does anyone seriously believe there's no manipulation? Do
I
you
mean,
think, based on that formula, that it's a nice, clean system? Every vote must count is what Democrats say. That's why it's set up that way.
shockingly, some people still think that what we're talking about is a lunacy. You and I are on the same page. I do think one thing you're talking homeless, I really it's more of a question for you when I think about that. If you're sending people out into sort of like the field to try to like gain those types of ballots from disenfranchised population, um, that's a bit risky. I
Yes,
find
they just sent this woman was just convicted and sent to jail last week.
um for because
Uh,
she got hurt.
coercing the homeless and bribing them.
I'm saying it's risky even for those that might be on the field doing it. They're engaging with people that might not always be rational in their behaviors and responses.
Sure, but sure, you're right, but nothing goes from 0 to 100 in a flash of seconds unless the guy's strung out, maybe.
Yeah.
There's you're like, "Let's not go there. Wild Man Bill's over there. How do we know?" "Well, we come here a lot. That's Wild Man Bill." People learn to recognize scenarios. They understand the lay of the land. They don't go blind. Now, some may go blind,
Yeah.
but for the most part, violence isn't 90% of the people. They can get violent,
I
90% of the people. Doesn't
I'm
mean
not
approach them, they will get violent.
yeah, I'm not just saying violence, I'm saying the guy who just pulled his pants down in front of me the other day, but okay. I just
That's not violent. That's a woman going, "I wish you were sober." Bro, no wonder you're homeless.
You're so
Yeah.
funny. No, I think there are people who actually and have defended saying that people like us who are talking about how in the world did this happen? There's obviously something, a manipulation going on here. There's obviously fraud and just people are saying that we're the ones that are out of the box. We're the
Is
ones that are
yes, yes,
looking
yes.
looking
No,
up
you're right. You
stories.
said that about the Russia hoax. You
Yeah.
said that about the
So
Russia
yeah.
hoax.
So you're gonna find people
No.
not believing this scenario. They think somehow, and I looked again at the statistics of this with Karen Bass really not getting much of a gain at all, and a flood of votes. I think 83,000 going to Nithya Raman. It's just you can't even believe it with your eyes. There's just not a statistical way this and then Spencer Pratt maybe gaining a couple. It's all out of whack.
It's fixed. They have the system rigged. Their people are at the registrar's office. Their people set up the mail-in ballots. Their people are the ones creating the laws to make it difficult to track this.
To look
And
at
then
it, right.
even then, and SB 73 is being built for this cycle to stop any look because they know they're
Mhm.
starting to look down our breath, down our neck. Let's get SB 73 passed. We're going to do that. That way it gets tied up in court. You get that leftist, corrupt, bigot, epoxy on his family, liberal judge who is okay with dead citizens over his ideology. And I'm actually referencing the ones that left illegals off, murderers off, or white beaters off, and then they go and they kill these people. These type of judges, they protect the Democrat system. There's a reason conservatives get pissed off at conservative SCOTUSes because they follow the law. 99.9% of the time, the liberals justices vote liberal, not
Yeah.
with the law. And that's what the system is tied in place for. That's why Democrats fund these judges' races, these PACs with some of these judges to get these leftist judges on the bench. We
But
don't
it's
do any of that.
but it's almost a misnomer to think that a judge be corrupt in that way. It's like the antithesis of what it means to be honorable. They call a judge honorable. And you're thinking about what it would take, what they're thinking about our society. I just think what's happening more now for a judge to be able to do that, they can only really care about,
Oh,
well,
no, judges are that's the most corrupt institution because there is no check and balance for a judge. Who judges the judges? Do you know?
the further judge, the next court.
No. There is tribunals or committees set literally in every state of retired judges judging judges.
I know they sometimes step in on cases, but I didn't know that they
Rarely,
were okay. Well,
rare they do.
yeah.
Rarely will they ever find a judge unless it's so contemptuous, so out there, they're always gonna side with the judge. To me, once a judge releases a certain amount of individuals who go out and cause harm to society,
Mhm.
sorry, bro, you need to retire or now you're under the threshold that they can sue you. I'm sure we'd have less people. I don't believe in going out on bail for a murderer. Really, I really don't. Well, man, I guess it depends on the situation. But or some the ones like I saw 30 years ago, I saw an episode on 60 Minutes. It's been that long since I've really watched 60 Minutes. At the turn of the century, they became dead to me. And the reason I say that is one of their better pieces, they were talking to a judge who had let a man go after he violated a restraining order. She
Mhm.
saw no problem, and the man killed the woman less than a week later. And it turns out the judge was going through a nasty divorce at the time. Oh, women, bleep, 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 bleep. He should have
Mhm.
recused himself. And they asked him, "Is there any remorse?" The look he just get, "No, the hell are you talking about remorse?" He didn't say those words, but that was what was dripping off. Who are you to ask me about remorse? And I'll
No
never forget that episode.
self-reflection. Yeah.
None, none, none. You know,
So, judges
no,
can be as corrupt as anybody, I suppose.
right,
Right.
right. So isn't it fair to ask how her margins were manufactured when there's statistical anomalies? They're asking us to accept, no, all leftists, we just all vote late. No, not that many, and not in those statistical. If the uninformed leftists, which it's not an uninformed leftist, most 80% of Americans don't follow politics. 90% actually, 95% don't follow politics. All of a sudden, they know who Nithya Raman is? No.
Yeah.
If anything, they would have voted for Bass. Bass would have increased.
Correct. Correct. That's correct. Um,
All right.
the I think it's the for the voting that goes on the longest, it's the majority of Democratic states. Voting that
Blue
goes
states.
on l
Every,
all
every, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, see, every state that Kamala won is a state with no voter ID. Oh, William, you're lying. There are states with some voter IDs. Yes, technically, but you can challenge it, get your ballot, and vote. And what happens to the vote? It's in the system.
D And the
And
length of time, and
yeah.
those same that don't have the voter IDs have a longer they're counting ballots a week later.
Well, you're missing my point. My point is they
But
can challenge it, they can get a ballot, and once that vote is in the system, they're not gonna pull it out. Well, you can't vote. We're gonna punish you with this, this. But what about their ballot? Well, it's in the system, it counts.
no.
All right. So as you can see, people, it's easy to manufacture these ballots in the shadows. Everything we've said has happened, and this isn't a nefarious Hollywood movie where you expect things to happen in a movie-esque way where the suspect's there and you get shocked. No, it's just simple. Here's your pack of cigarettes. You want to get into this home? I can get you in. Just please sign here first. Oh, yeah. No habla inglés. I will help you with your ballot. Yes, Gavin Newsom, he is the pro life governor. How do I know this? About 20 years ago, a church group was going to Riverside with Spanish speakers, they had a 60% switch rate from Democrat to Republican because they were told that the Democrats they were supporting were pro life Democrats.
Oh,
And as soon as they were realizing, like, oh, because a Latin speaking Democrat operative will lie to a Latino third worlder as easily as a white American, Black American, Asian American leftist will lie to anyone else. And the reason I say it that way, and that is everybody wants to blame whitey. No, blacks, whites, Asian, Indian, or Native American, I guess is the politically correct way. It's human nature. They are putting their ideology before and they will lie on the progressive side. They'll do it on the conservative side too, but we tend to be more integrity, have more ethics because we don't look at it as, oh, we did it for the greater good. That's a favorite mantra. The road to hell has been paved with the greater good.
with the good intentions, the road to hell is
Yeah,
paved with good intentions. One thing I
exactly.
wanted to say, and I know we're gonna talk about Trump on another show, but in that interview when he talked about voter what was happening in the LA mayor, he got extremely frustrated because he said, "We can't be a great nation with this kind of voting. We cannot be a great nation if we don't have any voter integrity, and we can't trust what's happening on the with our elections." I agree with that.
That's absolutely true. We have become a third world nation, and that's why epoxy on Jimmy Carter. He was
Why do you
going
say that?
all over the world, all over the world. Well, here's the standards for voting for this, for that. Came here, said, "Oh no, these are the most secure elections I ever seen in terms of Biden." He put his ideology. Now, maybe he was already so far gone. Here's
Mhm.
a guy rolling out, and his grandson says, he told me that Kamala was the greatest vote he's ever done, or some nonsense like that. And the
Uh,
guy's literally a vegetable in his
yeah.
chair, his seat. That and epoxy on that grandson for using that old man like he did.
Yeah, well, as we're talking about the homeless, a lot of people are getting used.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about the legal evidence framework, the courts, the Department of Justice fights, and what some people deem as proof through some court cases that the media never talks about, or when you bring it up, the media goes, "Oh, well, that's just a rarity. That's an outlier."
Okay.
It's not. So after the 2020 election, Republicans and Trump-aligned groups filed about 93 election-related cases across key states. Only about 32 of those were actually heard on the merits with evidence and legal arguments weighed. So out of 90 some odd, only about 30 were heard. Right. Others were being, well, we'll get to why others were tossed, but a lot of technicalities, a lot of that doesn't fall under our purview. And then the most damn save that will last. So what does a win look like? So in that smaller pool of merit cases, Republicans won about 2 dozen out of those 30 some odd, 32, 30, 32. Republicans won about 24. So they won most of them. You don't hear the media talking about that because it does not support their ideology.
Mhm.
So those cases didn't overturn the presidential result, as we saw, but they did document things like counties or states violating their own election laws. In California, they knew that, so they just changed the law. No
Yeah.
voter ID necessary. But that's what they did.
Yeah, no, it's
Later
true.
on, they just
It's a
changed
great
law.
solution. It's a great sol
Improper changes to deadlines or procedures in Pennsylvania. They broke their constitution by passing certain laws. Process failures in how ballots were handled or counted. The chain of custodies were broken. In other words, courts acknowledged real problems, but then they stopped short of changing the big outcome. Once that was done and discovered, those elections should have been nullified and redone. But the
but they
courts don't
weren't.
want to do that.
That's
Despite the fact you won, we won 24 of them. They refuse to do that. So how did most of the cases die? So a large chunk of the cases never got the evidence because judges said they were filed too early. Challenges to rules before election day were dismissed for lack of concrete harm, meaning, well, you're claiming this is what they're going to do, but we haven't had the election, so we don't know if they're going to do that. That's what, to give you an analogy that's slightly different, the Republican Party challenged the redistricting and based off the state constitution. The judge said, "I agree with you, bro. You get black and white, but it hasn't happened because the election hasn't taken place. Once the election does, then you can file." And luckily, they immediately filed for anything, and because there was no election per se, meaning to be certified or it was an election, it was just passed. The court said, "No, you did break the state constitution in how you redistricted. It has been deemed illegal." So they had to wait for it to happen before they could actually proceed forward. And so a lot of challenges were too early, meaning, well, they're still counting this or that. You're saying that you're losing because of this. We need to see the outcome. So when the outcome did happen, the same courts, it's too late. We're dismissing it because we're not going to undo the result of the election. And in some cases, it's already certified. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's some of them. Then you had a lot of rejection on standing, including the Supreme Court, who did not want to make a decision on this when Texas filed. And the Supreme Court were cowards and they lied, they cheated, epoxy, and all of that too. Because that's the Supreme Court. One of the reasons it was created is for states to take their issues to them, not just the people, but for states
Yeah.
to actually take their issues to them. And they're saying, no, that's not under our purview. What the hell you mean that's not under their purview? This is the
Mhm.
presidential election. I get angry still thinking about it. So, what's the bottom line in all this? The system that emerged after 2020 looks like this, people. If you sue before, you're told it's hypothetical. If you sue after, you're told it's irreversible. And that creates a legal environment where it's incredibly hard to get a straight on the record answer about whether the rules were followed, and almost nothing systemic ever gets fixed, even when courts admit something was wrong, as in the case of those 2 dozen victories. Trump's team, I'm sick and tired of Rubio. Do you think the 2020 election was stolen? I'm gonna say maybe, maybe not. And here's why. Boo, 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 boo. And that's that. Because then the question gets out there. People go, oh, and not look at it. Instead, the Republicans cower and hide and they dodge the question. And all that does is help the Democrats don't need them to answer. They just need them to start dodging. And they look guilty. And they need to stop that. All right. So then we have the Department of Justice versus California voter roll audits. The first assistant U.S. attorney in other state California is refusing to cooperate with the lawful audit of voter rolls, which is the right. Now, most of these states are claiming privacy, which is a load of crap, and the progressive, corrupt Democrat judges are buying it. It's the federal government and state government. The privacy is still there. So the DOJ cites concerns over failure to remove dead voters. As I stated, Ami Horowitz, well-known conservative pundit,
Yeah.
his dad got a vote. People who have moved out of state, the guy in Virginia, his home address in California, got a vote despite, I think it was a Fresno B, despite their lying story trying to condemn the guy in Virginia by creating a straw man and saying he never received a vote in Virginia. Yeah, he didn't receive it in Virginia. He received it at his last known address, which they left out because that defeats their whole story. It doesn't help their narrative. Then you have the potential non-citizens on the rolls. Easy proof of that. You're registered to vote when you get an ID. Can illegals get driver's licenses here? Yes, they can.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Have
Yes.
they been busted being given a ballot? Yes, they have. And what does it say? Say, oh, just a simple mistake. No, it's not a simple mistake. That's why the system is there that way to get illegals on the voter rolls. California invokes state privacy, and the DOJ correctly it says it doesn't apply. So I'm not going to get into the analogy with the district attorney, but in essence, well, I will in a district in a case, a regular legal case, you never have video, you rarely have video of the crime or the perfect CSI DNA. I'm Grissom, and here's a DNA for this voter ballot. Cha-ching. Or in Law and Order, bonk bonk, and they break the case open. That's not how it works in the real world. Cases are built on testimony plus circumstantial evidence, travel time, cell pings, bank records, access logs, motives, who benefits. That's how they should treat this. Think about that, Annette. Testimony from the homeless. You got all the circumstantial evidence with the voter ballots. So, for example, the witness signature, the one guy with the smiley face, you have these long, they're just circles. There's like a swoosh for a name that's not even recognizable. You
Well,
have uh,
there could be a bit of
uh,
a lack of credibility issue there.
exactly. You have bank records. Really? So you're an NGO here. Where did this $700,000 come from? What was it used? Oh,
Yeah.
really? Y'all have now y'all don't have 1,000 cartons of cigarette smokers here that you smoke through in 2 weeks. Where those cartons at? So you have that. So defendants are always denied, but juries will have convicted when the pattern leaves no innocent explanation, meaning there's
Mhm.
enough circumstantial evidence. People don't get convicted of circumstantial evidence. You've been watching Hollywood too much. Yes, they do.
Wait,
So
so then would you say you prefer a jury over a judge in these with these types
no,
of
no, I'm
crimes?
just giving an analogy,
But I'm just
meaning
saying, like, so
it's harder to prove this ballot rigging because of the way the California Democrats have set it up. It's easier to prove somebody for murder than it is
correct.
this.
But do you think that people hearing these types of scenarios would be more likely to see the dishonesty there than just a judge?
Oh,
'Cause
yes, and that's the problem, Annette. The
mm,
Republican Party refuses to sit there when they're on CNN. Okay, I'm gonna need 30 seconds. Here's how it works.
yeah, yeah.
Where's the proof? Well, you got SB 74. The Democrats won't
SB
clean the voter roll.
73.
SB 73. You have the LA Democrats won't clean up the voter rolls. The register office is run by Democrats. You have to take the battle head on, and they won't. So why do we demand a higher standard of proof to question an election than we do to send someone to prison for life? Think about that, Annette. Why?
Because they have far more to gain if they can continue to because first of
Bingo.
all, they don't care about the people, but they have far more to gain if they can continue to rig elections and get their people in power.
Exactamundo.
I
Hey,
got
so
so I get like a star for the
yes, you
for answering the
do.
question appropriately. Thank you.
So if LA's results is a statistical outlier, as some claim, that can't be reasonably explained by normal voter behavior, why is it a conspiracy to say fraud is the only explanation left on the table? Like you said earlier, hey, we're conspiracy theorists. We provide all these red flags. Their evidence is actually there. They just won't let us get to it. And we have the homeless who are saying, yes, I was bribed. That in and of itself should be enough to open the doors. We have the voter rolls that are not clean. We know for a fact, even though in LA County they were court ordered and mandated to be clean. So
Yeah,
why is it a conspiracy theory if
because
we
the
say
word
it's fraud?
because I think the word conspiracy theory automatically evokes a certain
Nut job
discredibility.
connotation.
Discredibility, right. So it's like, oh, those conspiracists, they have zero credibility. They don't know what they're talking about. They think that it's flat earth. I don't know. Whatever.
No, you're right.
They
You're
dismiss
absolutely
it.
right. That's
They dismiss it.
that's why they say conspiracy.
Right.
Russia hoax, conspiracy. It wasn't. Turns out
William.
Obama was involved in it. Okay, Annette. So when the same people who designed the system also block audits, SB 73, why should voters trust their no evidence mantra based off their track record? Logic would dictate that, but yet we don't. And I think we already discussed the answer, but any other
Yeah.
thoughts in regards to that?
I, I think that voters don't trust it. And I think already we see that in the people and the numbers of people that are voting.
Exactly. Now, before we move on to the next section, I do want to show this video because this is the law talking about this. And it's incredible when you think about it. Let me get this up here, set up here first. But why are people like this individual here shoved into the background and not given main media play, even by conservative outlets? They should, and they're not. Look at this.
The way the voting system is structured, we see quite a few flaws. you're able to register even if and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, as evident of his brother in Pakistan. I think we have some evidence of two or three other people out of the country that voted. Is that correct?
Yeah, approximately 2 or 3 other people out of the country, as well as people residing outside of the district.
Okay. Um, the online voter registration system, it seems to be an honor system. Anybody can put information in there to register and vote. All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying, thank you for registering to vote. And there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot, right? You get mailed something to vote. So we found that a little bit problematic.
You see,
Yeah.
that's a law and order. That's a sheriff, and yet it's a scam. Why doesn't the media show that? To me, that this is front page news. A sheriff. This is how people will start believing. Holy mackerel, that's a sheriff.
Yeah.
That's not Annette Ross telling me. Why would I want to believe Annette Ross? But that's a sheriff.
Well, I don't know. There might be good reasons to believe me, but people are voting from Pakistan? That's a new one.
Oh no, they've been doing that for years. Any final comments on that sheriff? Good looking young guy. I like his hair, kind of like mine.
I have a comment about the sheriff. I have a comment about sheriffs in general. I was told when we moved here that placing your vote for a sheriff was actually a really important role and to
Yes.
pay attention to who was running. And I never
Yes.
understand that. And now I do. So
The
I'm
sheriffs are outside the system. They're elected. They don't have to answer directly to anyone else.
yeah, they've got power. They've got some powerful roles. So I find that to be very interesting. And a lot of them, look at Chad. Chad still is a great sheriff.
Well, we'll find out in terms of what his political future is. All right. So if you accept that circumstantial evidence counts in every other serious crime, then the last piece is motive. Who benefits from this exact kind of flip in LA and why? So we're going to talk a bit about motive. I want to address something because I know you like
I
Grin,
love yeah.
Grin. I love being on all fours in front of the camera, Greenwald, and showing it to the world. That's what
Wait,
he had a little video of him on all fours sexually made the rounds. Wasn't pretty. Let me just say
who
that.
did?
Glenn Greenwald. So he says, I don't understand y'all. Why would they want Nithya Raman to win and to maybe beat Karen Bass when Spencer Pratt is one they work towards getting elected? It's a stupid answer. It was a stupid answer. And we're going to talk about why that was a stupid, ignorant answer. And he knows it's a stupid, ignorant answer. But that's his leftist ways. Let me muddy up the waters by saying something that's not true, and my little minions will sit there and go scurry, start spreading this out as a truth. So Bass is the incumbent. She is unpopular on crime, on homelessness, and basic city performance. That's why she got arguably one of the lowest return numbers, percentage in actual votes, than most past mayoral incumbents. Voters are not buying Bass fixed LA. They try to say that. Oh, Bass is fixed LA. But many are loyal to the brand. Democrat, progressive, black female incumbent. Check, check, check.
The unions.
Pratt's the unions, yes. Well, I'm talking specifically about Bass. They're loyal to the brand, the Democrat, progressive, black female incumbent. That's who their loyalty rights to. The union, their leadership tells their people who to vote for. And that's how that works. Pratt's threat, Spencer Pratt, he wasn't a traditional Republican politician and never even mentioned he was Republican unless directly asked. He's a reality TV insurgent. It was Donald Trump. So was Ronald Reagan, a movie star.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had his ads were viral on homelessness and safety, powerful personal story as a fire victim, phenomenal debate performance that put everything in black and white. And he has a knack for turning anger into shareable content, into emotional power, just as Democrats did. He was able to do that. So most insiders never believed he could win in November, but they knew he could make 5 months of misery for Bass and the entire LA machine, to the point he could pull off an upset. We have had mayors who are Republican over the last 30 years. So
Yeah.
it can happen. Rahman is a safer foil. She's a progressive council member. She's left of Bass, but still part of the Democrat machine ecosystem. See, that's what Greenwald purposely leaves out the actual context of it all. Bass versus Rahman is what? It's intra-family warfare. You already saw it. Karen Bass came out. Yes, the Democrats, whoever you get, it's still going to be a Democrat, is what she was saying. We're going to fight this to the finish properly and honorably. Why? Because you don't have Pratt telling the truth that you cannot defend. You're gonna have more debate inside the progressive lane in terms about how far left to go in terms of the insiders. Okay, Bass is likely to win, but do we kinda try to feed certain PAC money, Nithya out, Ramen out because we like her socialist thought? Can we and so that's their debate is which leftists do they want? Bass versus Pratt would have turned the race into a referendum on the entire blue city model
Yeah.
that we've seen in action and that went down. Ramen's not gonna do that.
No.
There's no Pratt now that challenged Ramen. She said she doesn't care if there are homeless right next to schools with drugs, pedophiles, rapists, drunks, addicts. She doesn't care if they're 1 feet. Yes, she had a cow when they set up shop in front when they put him in front of her home. Remember they did the mock homeless? She thank God my kids didn't see it. All of a sudden the dynamics changed. So they don't have Pratt to do that. Again, something Glenn Greenwald purposely left out of his post. So the quiet deal logic for Ramen, this is what Democrats are good at. Go easy on Bass because your turn is next if you play ball. In exchange for not pounding Bass, you get us, the establishment, the unions, you get all this help later, maybe for mayor in 2030, Congress. Maybe you want to run for attorney general, for state editor, whatever you want, we'll be there for you. That's how Democrats work and operate. And that's how you align incentives for everyone in the club. Now, if you were the LA Democratic machine, would you rather face Democrat? Would you rather face Spencer Pratt for 5 more months or keep it all in the family with Bass versus Ramen?
Well, no question about it. I keep it all in the family. And what do you make of Ramens going to Cuba 25 times?
They're socialists. They're being it's the underground the Bill Ayers group just reincarnated now into a new group. They're socialists. They're communists. Their only goal is the destruction of America. And they
I
don't
know.
care how destructive it gets as long as they get theirs. They're gonna be at the top of the pool, rich, well fed. She already lives in a multi-million-dollar home. So where the masses still struggle. And it's
Why isn't that as obvious and plain as the nose on our
people don't
face?
pay attention. People don't pay attention to politics. But with Pratt running against her,
They
he would have made them pay attention. He would have
Yes.
gone Pratt went into a heavily gang-laden area through a party, and they were all up there for him. Yeah, we like it. He went there. Bass won't go there. Ramen soup won't go there.
No, he was gonna shake it up.
That's right.
He was shaking it up.
So Glenn Greenwald, to me, is a liar, as always. You see, the problem with Glenn Greenwald and who's that one guy you like, that intellectual? You agree with him on
The
one thing, then
intellectual. You mean Jeffrey Sachs?
yes, you agree on one thing, then all of a sudden our side, oh, they're good, they're good. No, they're not. It's just one thing we align with. 99.9% of the rest of it we don't align with. Same with Tulsi Gabbard. She's still a leftist at heart. She's still a Bernie bro at heart. I would
Yeah.
never support her in a run for anything. Doesn't mean I didn't like how she was being used because it wasn't
Mhm.
in a political way. But so Ben Greenwald conveniently, and I don't, he purposely ignores that to spread a lie because that's what leftists do. They spread lies. So
I
is it really far fetched to think a system this loose might be nudged just enough to get the right two progressives into November? In other words, are we nuts to think that there's a reason Rahman got all the votes? Before you answer, you were going to say
No,
something.
I love all of your rhetorical questions. Um, I think I was gonna say about Greenwald, that people's core values, they might be able to get away with it for a little while, but you do end up seeing who they really are. I've seen that working with several different superintendents on different sides of the political spectrum. And I know politics are not supposed to be in our schools, but we both know they're in our schools. That eventually they might say, "Oh, but I'm not political." You'll never know my political affiliation, but you do see it. You see it in the smallest, most insidious ways.
All right, all right. So when you add motive to means and opportunity, how much more do you really need to say something is off? The motive was there. We just presented you why they wanted two Democrats. That's not debatable. The logic and reasoning I gave. And you have that, I think, answers why all the voting went towards Rahman. Am I wrong to think that?
No, you are not wrong to think that.
So, Annette, based on the motive we've given and the opportunity, how much do you really need to say something is off? That this is why these ballots went Rahman's way. It's better to have in family fight with two Democrats than to have 5 months of the outsider exposing every skeleton in the Democrat closet and actually convincing people and having a real
And
shot of turning votes and winning.
yeah, and getting people fired up. Not to use the name of our show or anything, but getting them fired up and excited about an election and excited about change. People that might be sort of like the sleeping beauties, waking them up and thinking that maybe there's a chance for things to actually change. There's a lot of disengagement. There's a lot of, like I said earlier, apathy. And then I said that and I heard someone else saying that on a podcast, and I think they stole it from me. But anyway, there is a lot of apathy out there. Um,
Exactly.
you're absolutely, because they just feel like, what's the point? But I think they did start to feel a little bit of hope with Pratt. I think they did relate to the way he used social media. I think that they did relate to him, and he was exposing things, and we were having a better conversation. Surely a more interesting one, and a more fun. And you know what? I think some of it should be fun, and I think some of it should be bubbling up with excitement that this is election time, and election time means that we the people are gonna vote our person in.
Exactly, exactly. So once you see the motive, the means, and the opportunity all lined up as we've done this show, the last step is let's take the perspective, take a step back, let's zoom out because LA is a visible crack in a much bigger California election fortress. So the pattern recognition in 2010, what I'm saying is it's not just LA, it's
Yeah.
statewide. So in 2010, in the Attorney General's race, Steve Cooley led on election night, clearly the winner. Everybody thought he won. Everybody assumed he won. Then all of a sudden, weeks later, after late mail-in surge from the LA area, she wins with a margin under 1%. Under 1%. In 2020, obviously there was massive distrust, cases half heard, critics censored, but there was no bipartisan investigation. No, we got to clean this up. In 2026, now we get the LA mayor flip, SB 73, the DOJ shutout, multiple election fraud probes. Those are just three
Mm.
snapshots in terms of, but there are hundreds of the 2010 AG race setups. We have young Kim, who was literally seen as a winner, went to Congress representing Orange County for her freshman orientation, came back. Oh no, young Kim, you lost. Just a handful of votes, but you lost. That has repeated itself over and over and over on weeks after election. So you have the system versus rhetoric. Democrats say California is a model for free and fair elections. We've proven it's not. In practice, they build a system that maximizes ballot production, universal mail, online registrations with no citizenship proof, as we saw with that video with the sheriff, minimizes verification, no voter ID, weak registration ID, limited roll cleaning, if any roll cleaning, and it criminalizes scrutiny. I got to repeat this. It maximizes ballot production, meaning getting as many ballots out there with the minimal proof. Then it minimizes verification on the day of voting, no voter ID, and to register to vote, gym membership, or a pharmacy label. And then when you go, whoa, 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 oh, you can't investigate or you're going to go to jail. So that's what they've done to protect the system they've built. Voters don't talk about machines anymore because they're starting to understand. They talk about the laws that are rigged on purpose. Don't get me wrong, there's still issues with the machines.
Yeah.
On Patrick David, a show, I want to say 6 or 7 minutes, a Finnish hacker hacked into a voting machine that supposedly can't be hacked and aren't on the internet, but really have been shown that they are, and as shown in Denver, where somebody in Serbia had remote access. Oh, that's just to check up on the machine. Well, you told us they couldn't get online. That was not possible. See how they moved the goalposts? Yes, but it's just remote to make sure everything's working properly. Bull crap. Me and Big John, my former partner, got an issue about this. Well, William, do you really think they're going to sit there and be? I was like, your TDS has resulted in you not even lacking common sense. Of course, people will lie, cheat, and steal if they can get away with it. And with people who had his mentality, that's why they could get away with it. So they don't talk about machines anymore. They talk about laws that are rigged. The process itself, Annette, slow counts, late flips, legal laws, that's now a top tier issue mentioned in the same breath as crime, housing, and taxes. But the real question is this just a blip in the news today? We'll forget about it tomorrow? Thoughts?
I have many thoughts. One of the thoughts I first want to bring up is that did you know that the Obama bill, which is a law, if you stack up all that paper, it's almost 4 feet high. That is how long it is.
Right.
Because on page, I don't know, 1002, you're really not going to have any healthcare coverage at all. This is how the law, it's not just ambiguous, it is literally set up to put us in a compromised position as citizens in the state of California. And that's just one example. But you're talking about the laws. I think the more law, the more policy, the more corruption. I think you can quite
That's right.
simply say that, and that is a true statement. So we've got this just droning on in terms of, oh, wait a minute, let's create one more law, one more AB, one more SB. So, and it's layered and then it's multi-layered. And then there's and that's what happened when you brought up a little while ago when you talked about the Supreme Court or other judges that they don't want to hear it. Then they're going to use the law to not hear something. They're going to use the law to say, oh, it's too late. They're going to use the law to say, we don't have to look at this. The law gets used in all of these ways that are,
Wrong way.
yes, no, but it is discouraging for the regular person to believe that there is such a thing called justice.
You know why this happens?
No,
No term limits. No term
I
limits.
think that is part of the problem. I
No term.
I 1000% believe we would be in a much better situation if we had term limits. I am all for them.
Yep.
I am for it. William, I'm for it even for the school board. I'm in my second term. I'm not going to run for a third term. There's something else I should do and could do, and there should be different energy at the school. My daughter's graduating out of the school. There's lots of reasons. I think I've done good work there. But I agree with it in local agencies. People need to move on.
You know what?
Yeah.
For school boards, I think you should only be allowed to run for school board if you have a kid in that school system.
And I do. So that I understand that. Now, a lot of school boards
Why? Because your kid is directly
by what you
impacted by
create.
your decisions.
Yes, that's correct.
So, here where I was at, we had somebody who'd been on the planning board here for over 10 years, and he was corrupt. He lied to the board and sat there and said something screwed up. And he goes, "Well, no, I informed the board." And I said, "Well, I was never called or talked to." "Oh, well, I informed these 4 people." I'm like, "That's not the board. Your job is to inform the board, not your 3 cronies that you rule." She ran those 3 people out. Well, one moved. She moved on her own. The other 2, I worked behind the scenes, got a different chair elected. He was so pissed off because he'd lost his power. He didn't want to go back to just being a board member. He resigned on the spot. Another one lost a major vote, which at the end turned out to be moot 2 years later. but he was so angry, he resigned on the spot.
Well,
I served one term, I cleaned up the board, and I said, I'm gone." "Oh, you don't wanna serve another one?" "No, I don't like this." Because only a few of us, we're doing all the work. Now in a different setting, that's what they want. A handful of them doing all the work because they control everything. I go, "But I don't care for that, and the board's cleaned up now, so I'm gone." They all thought I wanted to be there for power. They all thought I loved that. I go, "No, I just wanted to fix the board." But I was gonna get down and dirty with anyone. I remember the chair of the board started raising his voice. I started screaming, "I can do it louder than you if you wanna go down that route." Because I got in their face and I challenged
well,
them.
what is your favorite
And that's what
saying? One of your you've got like a top hits, but one of them is power corrupts and it corrupts absolutely. You do
damn
speaking
right.
you to you.
You to you.
You to you.
Oh. I didn't care for that power. They all thought I wanted to run for the chair. No, I don't want that power. I don't care about that. No, it's not for me. And that was shocking to them. They
Yeah.
couldn't understand that. And it's like just because you want to make change doesn't mean you want the power for yourself. You just want that's what a limited government. That's where I fell under. I just wanted to run right and I want to go back to my life.
Correct.
That was it. So in California, they want to make this the blueprint. Twofold question here. We're closing out the
Yep.
show here, but twofold question here is how long can they keep the jig up or before the jig is up? How long before? Because many thought, hey, we hit rock bottom with LA. Obviously, we haven't because they're so corrupt and the people are still buying the corruption as truth. But how long can they keep this How long can they keep this rigging going before the jig is up? And do you think other states will pick up this model? Because if this is working here, what's to keep Chicago from fully implementing it? What's to keep New York? And they're pretty much there already.
I
Your
was just
thoughts?
gonna say that. I was just gonna say I think Chicago's there already. That's what I've heard from people that I know who live in Chicago. They feel that same level of frustration and corruption and that it's a rigged game. Um, how long though can they go? I think it depends on what you said. Maybe it was in yesterday's show about that there are people and there are organizations, agencies, even I think the St. Thomas More Society fighting some of this. But as you said,
Yes.
then it gets into this whole the court system, and that is a system, and it is not a quick system. It is a slow system.
It's a corrupt
It's
system.
and corrupt. Sometimes, though, look what happened in California because the St. Thomas More Society. I want to give them their due. That the parental rights have you cannot now have a child be pretending and with the parents with them not knowing that the child is
Right.
so that was a big deal. That was a win. Sometimes we get a win.
Right. No, you're right, Annette. But the fact that that had to go to court
Supreme Court, nonetheless.
speaks volumes about our
Yes, it
society.
does. Yes, it's
Yes, exactly.
a
Because
long
there comes
battle.
to a point where even the judges go, yes. I think there's many ways we can change this, but eventually we're gonna have to start looking at these judges and holding them
And the term limits. I think that's a good
to
conversation to have.
yeah, for politicians and judges because these judges are God. They will let somebody loose to kill somebody. The judge will eat dinner with his grandson who's protected in a safe environment while the person they let loose just killed a grandson in the ghetto, the barrio, or the trailer parks where they don't care because it's not near
Can
them.
I just say,
These
I
judges
know
will
you
have
want to close out
yeah,
the show, but I really want to say one taught me something that I did not know. When we were going through my
say
trial after I got hurt, the doctor who hurt me was on fentanyl, and she'd been in and out of rehab twice. And before the case came to the jury, the judge said the jury couldn't know about her fentanyl abuse. But that was the whole case. I didn't know that a judge could rule on
right.
something like that because he said it was too
Yes,
prejudicial against her. But of course, that's what happened the night that I went in to give birth. So they have a lot of power. They have power to show what
that's
is
right.
seen and what is not seen. And to me, that was a huge strike against us in our case and the truth of what happened to me that night. So that was a wake up call.
Oh, exactly, and that's common. And so, "Well, judge, that's our whole case. That's the corrupt judge." Or maybe there's a good legal reason, "Well, you got that illegally," so they have to balance that. But a lot of times, they're corrupt. Every time it's like Josh Shapiro covering up for that murder, they deem suicide, and all the evidence burned. No, this is murder.
Mhm.
Somebody doesn't slice themselves 20 some odd times or multiple
Correct.
times in suicide. So there are lots of corrupt judges, lots of corrupt attorney generals, lots of corrupt
And you
politicians.
can use the law to be corrupt, make no mistake.
Yes. All right. So the question isn't just was this race clean? It's what, if anything, can be done about a system that's been legally wired to run this
Mhm.
way. And in essence, we don't know yet because we have a spineless Republican Party. We have corrupt judges, corrupt Democrat politicians, corrupt constituents who work at these NGOs collecting big six-figure salaries, who are all fighting to clean this up because they benefit off it. So until we can figure out a way to counter that, I'm afraid it's going to get worse until the city actually burns, the state actually burns. And what I mean by that is things get worse and we hit rock bottom and an election becomes too big to wait. Obviously, we're not at that point. We're close to it, but we're not there yet. All right. My take is this. In part one, we laid out the architecture, universal mail-ins, no voter ID, ballot harvesting, dirty rolls, and SB 73 turning California's elections into an evidence-proof fortress. Check out that podcast. You can find that on YouTube now, Rumble, Grumblings Media Politics on YouTube, Grumblings Media on Rumble. In part two, this podcast, we followed what that actually looks like on the ground. Homeless ballots harvested in bulk, bad addresses, pumping out live ballots, a court system that hides behind too early and too late, and a political machine that clearly prefers a safe Bass ramen runoff over 5 more months of Spencer Pratt putting their failures on blast and on page one. So put together, LA's miracle mail-in flip isn't a glitch. It's a preview of how California's model works when everything breaks the right way for the people in charge, and why voters are right to be suspicious, even when the media tells them to shut up and trust the process. Thank you for listening, people. And don't forget to like and share this podcast. You can follow us on YouTube under Grumblings Media Politics, Rumble under Grumblings Media. Until next time, stay safe and stay fired up. Hey, everybody, this is William Del Pilar, founder of Grumblings Media, and I want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our all volunteer efforts at Grumblings Media, smash the subscribe button right here. 100% free, and please consume and share our great content. Click either one of these two boxes for more of our work.